Aloha, I'm Alana Kay, and this is Spirit of Maui. My guest today is Jonathan Tripodi, and he is the author of Freedom from Body Memory, and he's going to explain to us what body memory is and how it gets there and what to do about it. And he has a method that he's going to describe to us that he uses to help people restore their self after life's traumas, a lot of past programming that a lot of us have. And actually, I talked about a lot of this if you see my show with Lorraine Berry, where we talked about heart-centered living. And the thing about heart-centered living and being a spiritually present person is you need to learn how to calm the mind and move into your center, get connected to your breath, be grounded and be in the moment. The thing is that a lot of the things in our life have caused us to lose the connection to that space. So even though there's a lot of talk about how to do all of this these days and the spiritual movement, the spiritual awakening, it's very challenging for a lot of people because their past is all lodged in their body. So he's the expert in this. I have a lot of experience in this too because I am an intuitive reader. But I totally understand the concept. I'm really going to let Jonathan explain it to us and tell us how you got inspired to do this and all of that. So take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Alana. And you had a very good introduction to body memory. You spoke about these experiences that we have that are painful or overwhelming, and the way we cope with those experiences or survive them is we suppress them. So when it's too much, to feel, our body has a very natural protective mechanism that suppresses the experience. Suppression used to be thought to be isolated to the mind, and memory too. But many years ago, like 40, 50 years ago, science and psychology started to merge, and they started to discover that really memory is in the body as well as in the mind. And specifically emotional memory. So things that we feel, we tend to feel in our body and think in our mind. So when we suppress a memory a feeling memory, it occurs in our body. And then one of the ways we cope with it is we disconnect from our body. So we go to a place where it's safe from feeling, which is in our mind, in our thoughts.
Or seemingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people find themselves in this conundrum. All human beings, I would imagine, at some point discover that their life is kind of dominated by their thoughts.
And their past. Yeah.
And so they feel this sense of disconnection, like from themselves, from their body, their emotions, their heart, their spirit, as you pointed out, and they want that connection back. And the question becomes, how do I get back to it? So the path that has awakened for me is to come back into the body is a good place to start and begin feeling into your body again and reconnecting with what's going on there. And that process will eventually lead a person to discover those places in their body where they have suppressed a past memory. And the healing process is somewhat simple, not easy, but simple, in that once you encounter the suppressed places, places in your body where you've suppressed a memory, you'll feel the natural inclination to want to protect yourself again from it.
Right.
And you simply in that moment consciously choose to feel into it instead.
Instead of when you feel the discomfort bouncing back up. Because when you talk about living from the seat of your soul or your feeling center, which is, if you go back to the way babies are, how children are, they're just naturally instinctive, loose, and they express, they don't care what anybody thinks. And then as we get older, that's why the old person is walking down the street like this, It's because all of the memories and all of the things are lodged in there. I like how you pointed out where you go in and you feel it again, and I actually did, I'll just say real briefly, because I know you got all of the important details on this, but I was doing a spiritual, I don't know what you'd call it. It was like a demonstration of how you locate that stuff, but we can get to that towards the end too, where I would have people take in a nice, gentle, loving breath, or take in a few, and if you don't feel that breath going all the way through your body, where is it getting stuck? Is it here? Is it here? I noticed you were saying a lot of people are stuck here, right? And then, but even it goes down to your feet. Can you feel that breath and the life force just going through your whole body? Ideally, and if you're going to prevent all of the old age injuries and illnesses that are really typical, if you can restore that by healing the body memory, you can once again feel that life force flowing through your body because it's blocked. And what I was doing was they'd take the breath and then I'd say, okay, now where do you feel it getting stuck? And then I would use my intuition to help them. That's from, so I'd like you to get into that too, like identifying. I know you do physical work, and I realize it's a whole modality, but also like a lot of it's subconscious or shadow, like they don't even realize. When I take in a breath, all of a sudden I just feel like, don't go there, or I'm in a beautiful place and I can't feel all the beauty. They don't really know why they're stuck. So I wanted to make sure we addressed that too. So you said what body memory is. What is the name of your approach? What do you call it?
Body memory recall.
Body memory. Oh, like you said,
BMR.
Where we left that off before I went into my little interlude was, you were saying you have to be determined to once again go in there and feel that again so that you can reprogram it, reprocess it. So, yeah.
Yeah, after working with 3,000 plus people with the body memory recall approach, and also doing a lot of body memory transformation myself with my own memories, I started to see a very repetitive pattern in terms of the healing process. There were actually 4 distinct steps that every person would walk through in their process of transforming body memory. And the first step was reconnection. Mm-hmm. So you reconnect first with your body and what's going on in your body. So again, to your point, bringing awareness, making conscious of what's going on there. If you're not conscious, you can't change it. Mm-hmm. It just continues to...
You have to intentionally do it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing.
So recall or reconnection is step 1. Step 2 is release. And this is the step that is the most intense and is the most often avoided. Mm-hmm. Because it involves simply feeling and allowing what you feel to flow through your body. There's a catharsis that happens when a memory that's been suppressed, especially with strong emotions, mm-hmm. when that memory, when that energy is suddenly circulating now through your body rather than being quarantined.
Because let me clarify here, it's because remember when you said we tend to think that all of this is in our mind or our brain, but it's actually stored in our body. So then it causes physical symptoms, whether it's discomfort or even disease. So you're saying once you unpack it, what you've stuffed in the past, and once you unpack it, because it's an energy, it's like you don't see it. It's not a lump. It's not. So you unpack it. So just like any physical thing would be, you said, go ahead. Now you're talking about that. You start to feel all these things are going to start shifting.
Well, when the energy starts to flow, there are several things that you might experience. Your body may start twitching, or shaking.
Oh, yeah.
It could change temperatures. It can get hot or cold. Mm-hmm. It can also begin to spontaneously contract, like especially in the gut or the diaphragm area. But any muscle in the body where that energy starts to flow through can cause contraction.
Wow.
And so these contractions can be subtle, and they can also be dramatic. When they get more dramatic, they literally move the body. Not you moving it or me moving it, but the energy of the suppressed experience will, as it passes through.
Because everything's connected, so if it's going to release, it's going to hit all this other stuff.
Well, it energizes the body. So we're talking about
releasing energy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the energy of our experiences could be defined as electrical currents, magnetic waves, various frequencies or sound. Then there's photons of light. So when you study the biophysics of the body, which is physics is the study of energy,
Right.
and biology is the study of the body, and those two merged and formed a field of study called biophysics. And once that formed, like in the late 1950s, they started to discover that our body is full of energy.
No.
And actually is energy.
Yeah, it is energy. Yeah.
And that it's actually designed, the tissues and the fluids of the body, and I mean that in the most general way, all the body can be summed up as tissues and fluids, at least the physical anatomy. These tissues and fluids, muscles, fascia, connective tissue, blood, extracellular fluids, synovial fluids, these are all different names, but for fluids. All of them have conductive properties. They have the capacity to conduct
sense, yeah.
energy. And they also have the capacity to store it. So when you're in a release process of body memory, your tissues and fluids are in a higher state of conductivity. They start pumping the energetics of your emotions and your memories through your body.
Right.
And so it becomes a visceral experience.
Wow. So you're talking about now you use energy work, right? When you're, is it both like kind of like helping them process it? Are you also using your hands for energy to help with it? What do you do?
Yeah, so the body memory recall approach incorporates touch.
Oh, okay, yeah.
To the
That's what I
body,
thought, yeah.
and it can, the touch can be very light, and it can also progress to deeper pressures, and then it can also include very deep pressures. So I work with the whole touch spectrum, even off body.
Yeah.
So touching somebody with, not physically, but in their energy field.
Yeah.
So the process of body memory recall, what its intention is to do is to not just connect with your body, but with the person in it. So when I was receiving training in the different techniques that make up the body memory recall approach, it's an umbrella. Body memory recall is an umbrella term for a lot of what might be called somatic techniques.
Different modalities. Or
yes.
something, yeah.
But they all have one thing in common. The techniques all relate to the human being in the body. And the touch then is you learn to connect with the person and the sensation of the person,
yeah.
Not just their body.
Right.
Otherwise, it can get very physical, very mechanical. We've all had massages. We've all had chiropractic.
Well, you can
We've all
really
had
tell the difference.
people who are basically manipulating your physical body to make you feel better. And it does, to an extent. BMR and the techniques that are integrated in this approach include you. And people will say to me, nobody's ever touched me like that before. And what they're saying is, I feel you connecting with me, not just my back, not just my quadricep or my bicep, like you're connecting with me. And that connection is what begins the process of healing.
Let me point something out. This is something I've become aware of through the years as being an intuitive reader and also a healer. I used to do energy work with people. Is that I believe the most integral, high-level healers, and I don't mean healer, like, let me put my hands on you and heal you, like that, like in the churches, that whole thing. Whoops, I just touched my mic. Meaning, you get what I'm saying. are the ones that connect with the higher self, and that's how I do my readings too. You're saying with that person's inner being, you connect because the inner being, everybody's inner being knows, or I call it your soul. Everybody has different names for it. It knows our past, it knows our future, it knows everything. It's connected to higher intelligence, to the unified field. So it knows what to do. And I believe what you're trying to say, because you almost got there a couple times, was that you know where to go and what pressure or what level by connecting with that person. So it's not like you're forcing yourself on somebody. It's not like you're putting it upon them like they need to be afraid of it. It's you're connecting with their inner being, which that's what I do when I do readings. And then that way their inner being is communicating with your inner being as far as how to handle the situation.
Exactly, and in a very practical way, this is what it looks like in a very simple, practical way. When I place my hand on a body that is tight and hard, which is a product of body memory. So
right.
When we suppress, eventually there's muscle tension, then there's fascial restriction, then the fluid around it all gets hard, and these are the places where we've held something for a long time. When you put your hand on there, you'll feel an active protective response. You'll feel that it's not relaxed, it's tense. Mm-hmm. And so, but if you just rest your hand there without imposing it, right. without trying to make something change, mm-hmm. a person begins to feel safe. And the sensation under your hand is that the body just starts to melt. The mm-hmm. tissues relax. That melting sensation is the first indication to go deeper, and it also reflects that the person in the body has been connected with,
yes.
and that they feel safe.
Right.
So when that happens, I go, okay, let's go deeper. Mm-hmm. And then I come up against another level of resistance mm-hmm. or hardness, and I stay there. Mm-hmm. I don't back away from it, but I don't push through it. I just meet people in their resistances, help them to get conscious of that, because like you say, you have to be a participant. You have to come in there and feel that unconscious program to protect that's been going on for years, and be able to say, wow, I'm actually safe in this moment. Mm-hmm. This touch feels safe. This space feels safe. I'm at a different time in my life. I've already survived everything that ever happened to me. So maybe it's okay to kind of let go. Mm-hmm. And I feel that letting go as softening, and then I just keep progressively helping a person go deeper and deeper into that letting go process.
So you have to be very in tune with that person's subtle communications, not only in their body, but the subtle communication coming back to your hands. And see, that's what makes a person, when I use the term healer, that's what makes a person a healer, is that they have that, they're able to, with their clear state of being, clear-centered, sensitive, loving state of being, have that kind of feedback loop where you can feel that. Yeah, I remember oh, by the way, I was going to mention, of course I know Jonathan from the beach, because we go to the beach every morning, and I call them the beach people. There's certain people, it's like you see them in the grocery store and it's like, oh, I didn't recognize you without clothes.
Yeah.
No, we wear clothing on the beach. It's not, but I mean, that's just the joke, because anyway, we talked a few times, and then I asked you about this, and I forgot why I was, I don't know. I'll remember later. But anyway, I remember I asked you about this early on, and I told you I was doing this show, and I really didn't know about I glanced at your website, and I read the preview of your book on Amazon. I didn't want to know too much because I wanted you to tell me. It's so interesting. And it does really resonate with the things that I've discovered, and that was the thing about being clear, being in a loving space, and starting your day. The beach people here, we know that that's a big thing on Maui, is a lot of people start their day on the beach because when you're putting your feet on the sand, any bare ground, electrically you're connecting, and there's the Grounding movie. I will mention this endlessly because it's a fantastic movie. It's on either Netflix, Netflix, I don't know, but it's out there. If you Google it, you'll find it. But it explains that they're even discovering the health benefits of grounding. I mean, it's really everything. You got to start with grounding. So even if you're going through the healing process, it's good to be working with a healer who's grounded, who's grounding themselves in the morning, getting connected to nature, because then they're bringing to you that good energy, and then you're connected with the unified field, and then because you're connected to the unified field, you're able to use that higher consciousness to guide you through your process when you're helping somebody. It's just crossing my mind right now, so I just throw it out there. I've wanted to have a retreat on Maui for a while, and especially since the Maui fires. I work a hotline where I talk to people that were victims of the Maui fire in August of 2023, and the things that the people went through was not your typical, I mean, this definitely, a fire of any kind is going to be traumatic, but this was especially traumatic because it came on so suddenly. It was unexpected for most people, and most people that escaped went through a long process of like 4 hours being stuck in gridlock traffic in a firestorm with their pets and children in their car, and their steering wheel and car being so hot that they don't know if they need to get out and run. I mean, and then to be under that kind of pressure for 4 or 5 hours where you feel like your life is threatened every second. I'm just wondering, have you given any thought to how your method would help these people that have been through that level of attack, really? It's almost like being in a war or something. And then they're expected to just go on with life. Have you had any thoughts about that, like how your methods would apply?
Absolutely. When that fire happened, and shortly after, I immediately wanted to help.
Yeah, me too.
And I tried to think about how I could be of service, and especially with the gifts that I have, or the talents that I have, like to offer that healing. The challenge is that the I'm not a licensed professional.
Right.
I started out as a physical therapist, so licensed, and then I started learning these techniques, and these techniques don't necessarily fit within the context of that medical model.
By Medicare.
And so I had to ultimately make a decision: do I want to pursue this healing techniques, or do I want to stay in the confines of the medical model? And I chose to pursue these techniques because they're that powerful and they're that transformational. So I eventually let go of that license after 6 years of college and all the debt that goes with that. But to let you know that when people needed help in Lahaina, there's a lot of the system itself, our community, our government, they issued help, but from licensed individuals.
Right.
And there's a certain liability that comes with.
That's true.
With it. So I didn't find an inroad. The people that I work with come to me.
Right.
And it's like a human being working with another human being and consenting to a healing experience. And so, but my vision, and I still have it, and I would be absolutely willing to jump into it if the opportunity arose. This method of using hands to help others to come out of protective responses to past traumas and to heal, anybody can learn. There's certainly, I've been at it 30 years. You get better the longer you do it. But human beings, reaching out to other human beings, touching them with a loving intent, helping people to come back into their bodies, release these traumas. Almost anybody can help do this. I would be willing if, let's say, there were 50 people who were traumatized by the Lahaina fires on any level, and they wanted to come together and help each other. Bond together as a group of human beings who went through something together
Yeah.
that nobody else can really understand.
That's right.
And wanted to take my guidance, so to speak, to how to help each other in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I would be up for that. I think it would be tremendously powerful. I would say the same with war veterans or anybody who's had specific types of childhood traumas,
Mm-hmm.
you know, even just loss, you know, death of a spouse or a family member. You know, when you bring people together who have common pain or common way of suffering, and you give them the tools
Yeah.
to move through it. I can't say enough about how powerful that is. And as much as people like to, you know, say, "Oh, Jonathan, you're a great healer," I don't mind that title. But the truth of the matter is, people heal themselves. And what inspires me to do what I do is to help remind people that they not only have the power to survive horrific things,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have the power to transform it. My goal as, quote, a healer, but really as a brother,
Yeah, you're
just a fellow
you're like
human.
the facilitator.
I'm just a bridge.
Yeah.
I'm a bridge to help you access
Yeah.
a part of your nature
Yes.
that you don't know you have.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was born, when I got into this work, I'm sorry to say, like, I had a lot of trauma in my body.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it I didn't even know I had.
Mm-hmm.
Came out of my childhood, a car accident, really brutal car accident, but a lot of emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I just learned to live with it. I learned how to adapt. I learned how to cope and move on, like everybody does,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then I developed this blood clotting condition in my leg that no doctors could diagnose. Like, we don't know why this is happening. And it was life-threatening, and amputation was
On the table.
on the table as a way of removing the threat. So it wasn't until I crossed all those hurdles and said, no, I don't think I want to cut my leg off yet. I am freaked out. I don't know what to do. My leg is twice as big, swollen as my other one. I already had a couple of blood clots go through my heart to my lung. It almost killed me. I am freaked out, but I needed something to inspire me, and this medical approach didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then alternative healing came in. And then people started suggesting, have you tried vitamins and supplements? And I'm like, okay, wow, this could thin my blood. This could help me deal with scar tissue. So I started that path. Then somebody out of physical therapy school said, have you ever taken a myofascial release course? They teach you how to work with fascia. And it's funny, when you work with fascia, memories come up and they release and you're healing.
Yeah.
And I said, all right. So I went to a course and I had these techniques applied to me, and I had my first really deep emotional release.
From the car accident. Are you
Well,
saying?
this emotional release didn't necessarily have a context for it. It was
Okay.
just a lot of feelings.
Oh,
I call it a melting pot.
yeah, right. A lot of times it's
You know,
not
it's
that
a
identifiable, right? Because all
But
things connected.
what that moment did is it inspired me, because I went through physical therapy school, and the idea is, when in the medical model is, we're going to train you to know more about your body than your patients do. And you're going to be in charge of figuring out what the problem is, and then you're going to fix it. Nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of room. Like, that's a piece. Shouldn't be the whole
Yeah,
medical
yeah.
approach. It's a piece. But there's this other piece that awoke in that day when I had my first body memory release, which is, there's a power in me that, when it's accessed, heals me.
Right.
And it allows me to heal. It's some mysterious, I have to be very relaxed, I have to be very surrendered, I have to trust, I have to do all these wonderful things. But when that all happens, and somebody's bringing positive energy to my body, and I drop into that and surrender, my body just starts releasing all these terrible things that I've been carrying around my whole life. And it is visceral, it's dynamic, it's energetic, and all that starts to happen. And at the other side of that, I feel calmer, more peaceful. My leg swelling went down. Eventually, my legs healed. I don't have any problems. And so that's the inspiration. So my goal, my job, and my intention with my work is to help other people awaken to that power within them. Now, I don't have a need to label that power. Like, if some people want to say, well, that's God.
Yeah, that's the,
or other people want to say that's spirit, or they want to say whatever you want to say that it is.
I agree with you on that.
All I know is that it's powerful, it's loving, it's intelligent, and it will heal you in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah.
And so,
exactly.
Coming back to the Lahaina people who've been through that trauma, I would say to all of you who may be watching this program that you have survived, and whenever you're ready, there's a readiness.
Yeah.
When you're ready to re-confront that trauma in yourself, you have the capacity to feel it and let it go and release it from your body and bring you back to your more of what I call your original blueprint, the one you described as a baby or a young child.
Yeah.
It's where you were connected with yourself, where you were free and open, and where life was flowing through you.
And life was happy and fun, and
yeah.
And so when you talked about, well, you had this moment, but then we also discussed earlier that, and I'm aware of this too, because I've had to reprogram a lot of things in myself, that it's an ongoing process. It might, I suppose everybody's going to be different, keep coming up. So it requires a level of dedication, and I sometimes call it a discipline. That doesn't sound like much fun, but you have to be, just like if you're going to change your diet or exercise, it's the same thing, that you might need to monitor something for a while, because here it comes again. Because every time, if we keep reliving, I got hit by a drunk driver a couple years ago, my car, and I didn't suffer an injury, but it was a big financial disruption and so on and so forth. And I remember that the sound, the impact of that hitting me would just keep playing over and over in my head. So I got a feeling for what it's like to, I haven't had too many things like that in my life. And what I would do is I'd keep replacing it with a different thought. And I suppose there's different methods of not replaying the tapes over and over of the past. So I believe you'd have to be willing to, if you're going to heal some stuff in your life and you're ready, you'd have to be ready to let go of the old tapes too. And that requires some work on our part to do that. Somebody like you as a facilitator to help with the initial movement, the location.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to do is overcome the fear of feeling. So, because this is what happens. Remember, I said the release phase gets bypassed.
Because
so we move right away to the head, and this is what counseling's all about. People come in with a high volume of emotional energy that has overwhelmed them, and they've suppressed it, and now they've got anxiety. Now they've got depression, because that's what suppressing these experiences do. They wind our body up. They cause it to function abnormally. We can have back pain, we can have constipation. It just wigs our body out. I mean, take the experience like the Lahaina fires and the trauma of that. Imagine the intensity of that stored in the body.
Right.
How is that body supposed to function properly?
No, everything's all tight,
with that storm.
And then the whole protection, all the protection instincts are going off. And
exactly.
And then you're going to feel that way every day, because you've gone down this.
And your nervous system reacts too. It's like having an intruder in your house.
Right.
It's like you don't know where it is, but you know it's there, and it's scary and it's threatening. So you're always on guard, like you were saying. So what we're doing with body memory release is we're letting the intruder out of your house.
But you first have to be willing to face it.
You have to,
You first have to be willing to face it. When you're ready to face it,
yes,
then you can work on moving it out and then reprogramming. I call it reprogramming yourself. That's it. Oops, I keep touching my microphone. That's the interesting thing about all of us here on Maui. There's a lot of people. Maui naturally attracts people like Jonathan and I, and there's a lot of them, and some people might even make some jokes because there's some people that are kind of, you know, I always call it just throwing flowers through the air. But Maui, because it's a very spiritual nature, it's a very high vibration, if not the highest vibration. And some people call it the heart chakra of the planet. I'll probably mention that every once in a while. I believe it's the heart chakra of the planet. It attracts people like this, and we, even though we feel a kinship, we feel like a familiarity, like a family. Some people may say we know each other from past lives or whatever it might be. We'll still have different references to like the different parts of what we do anyway. And
Yeah.
I think what's great about all of us, all my friends, including you, is that we're okay with that, you know. And I use the Christ reference a lot, and I there goes the eyebrows. And I'm like, I've even noticed, I know, because I'm an intuitive reader, that a lot of people that have a bad reaction to Christ or Jesus, it has to do with their past. It has to do with like how they were raised. Oh, I went to the Catholic schools. Well, that's because somebody gave you a really bad impression of what Jesus is or what Christ is. Yeah, but we have different, I often refer to the soul in the unified field, and that to me, that's the power. But you were at a certain point why I wanted to say that it came up again about, doesn't matter what you call it.
Well, what I'm saying is that you want to be careful that you don't go to the head to heal your feelings. Feelings are healed by feeling them. And so, but what I hear you saying is that there's a story behind those feelings, and if you keep energizing the story, the feelings can keep coming back. Like you can cry and cry and cry and keep crying forever because the story remains sad all the time. And if
you can
keep,
change that's a big part of what I have in my books too, is like, I call it rewriting the story. Because even if it's something bad, the experience, and it is my belief, as horrible as things are, that your soul put you in that situation for a reason, for growth. And instead of saying, oh, this is this bad thing that happened to me, and thinking of it as bad, if you can start thinking of it a different way, I think that helps release it too, and stop reprogramming yourself to relive the trauma if you turn it into something. And like Esther Hicks always says, is we're not doing any quantum leaps. You know, you're not going to go from, oh, that was horrible, to, oh, that was fabulous. It's not that you're gonna leap like that, but in increments as you're healing and getting away from it. Like, for instance, my thing with the car was that it taught me more to be in the moment. And I believe my soul felt I needed that experience, because in order for me to get through the situation, financially and so on, I had to be in the moment because I had no clue how it was going to unfold. Because my car was totaled and it was brand new, and so I do that, and if I can't find it, I search for it. But we're talking about where we were at is that we're talking about how you do have to take responsibility. Nobody can come in and just do this for you, move some energy, and it's a done deal.
Yeah, true.
Right.
True. It's really an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
And you know, and grow through feeling, grow through opening your mind to bigger perspectives. But let life teach you, and be careful if you know, when you draw conclusions about, you know, is life telling you that that life is unfair, or is life telling you that you're not worthy of love? Or is life telling you always be afraid? Like sometimes our mind will draw these conclusions, and then, as you put it, you know, mentioned that these kinds of interpretations will create a reality that keeps continuously playing out for us.
Right.
So yes.
And then that energy keeps going back in our body.
Once you overcome the fear of feeling, which is so important, and you're in that flow state, and those energies can move through, then let the mind begin to open up to new perspectives and new understandings about life.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And then I've been saying that lately to people who are going, oh my God, the chaos and the anger and the frustration, confusion that's going on. And I put on Facebook the other day, in order for us to move and see, I believe that heaven on earth is trying to supplant itself on earth, and it's pushing out everything, all the discordant energy, and similar to when you're talking about moving it out of the body, it's disrupting all of this stuff. And I've been saying, in order for us to move into heaven on earth, which is a different paradigm, we're going to have to unlearn everything we thought we learned and everything we thought we knew about the way things are supposed to be. And people are going through that also as a group. We're going through that right now. And I happen to know that as an intuitive, and being born knowing already in the probably by 1970, that in my lifetime, heaven on earth was going to be the norm. And then, of course, in the 90s, they started talking about the shift and everything happening. So there it is. And I can see how it's kind of like the final crush, you know. Well, the last thing I wanted to know, and I want to make sure that you mention your website. We'll do that right after we talk about this, your website and the name of your book again and how to find that. And also my website, we'll make sure I mention that. This video is appearing at Akaku, the local cable access on Maui, and it's also on YouTube. So you can share it with your friends or do whatever you want with it. Okay, so you help facilitate somebody through something, and then do you, it's really up to you how you do this, so this is not, I'm not trying to corner you or anything. Do you try to leave them with some knowledge about how, like aftercare, or like how they might handle other problems as they arise?
Yes. Yeah, you know, the self-care practice and how to continue nurturing the flow of energy through their body.
That's a good way to put it.
How to support flow, because our society isn't set up that way. It doesn't teach us that. It teaches us to be in control, teaches us to suppress, to avoid, sedate, like all the things that are really against the healing process. So we have to cultivate these practices that nurture us to do that. And yeah, that's an important part of the healing after the releases.
Yeah, and once they get familiar with that. I actually worked with a woman, and that was when I personally took a break from that kind of thing. I was her gardener in Walo a long time ago, about 20-some years ago. And she was an older person, and I don't think I knew she had cancer. She would talk to me. She would always follow me around. She had a huge place. And she'd always want to be around me. And at the time, I thought, there's got to be a reason, right? So I started to try to push the conversation a little bit, and she reveals that she had throat cancer. And I revealed to her that I do medical intuition, I do intuitive readings, and she says, what do you think is causing my throat cancer? And I said, because you're supposed to be a singer, and you're suppressing, you're not singing. And you're holding the energy, so your soul was designed to be a singer, and you're holding the energy, so you need to sing. And she just dropped her head. And she said, I used to be a vocalist, and I had an accompanist who died. And I was so traumatized I never wanted to sing again. So that's a good example of how the energy gets trapped. So I'm very aware of that. And then she asked me to do energy work while she was going through chemo. And she actually wrote a letter from my website at the time that my energy work would clear up all of her pain and discomfort from chemo. And I did have to take it gradually with her because I knew she was holding onto her emotions really tight, and she also had lung problems. So she'd go and have to get the fluid removed from her lungs. And I told her, you know, you need to cry. It was that. I said, you need to cry. One day, and I described the whole thing to her. And I came, and she says, this morning before you came, I started crying, and it wouldn't stop. I was on the floor like a child crying. She's just wailing. And she said, but you know what? I felt so ashamed. I never want to do that again. And I literally watched her just die from her disease because she wouldn't let go of, she didn't want to do that again. I get it. I mean, if it's that crazy, and I think with the fire victims, it's going to be pretty heavy duty for a lot of them.
This is the challenge, and you brought it up. A really good point is when our body actually starts to heal, like she was, and starts to feel, the mind comes in and interprets that in a negative way. What's your
that's
problem?
a good point. That's what we're talking about.
Why are you so weak? What's your problem? Are you crazy? And it starts throwing these labels out that make you feel ashamed or bad about the fact that you're actually letting your body naturally feel and heal, and it backfires against you. And so that's why education is so important. And you talk about reprogramming your mind. We have to come into an understanding of our bodies in a way that supports it to heal, not works against it. And our mind is the number one culprit of twisting the truth, taking something natural and turning it into a bad thing, and making us feel bad about ourselves constantly.
Oh yeah.
So
it's very, very typical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good observation. Yeah, she said, I'm ashamed. Yeah, that she was. Yeah, I felt like a child. I was ashamed that I was that. So that's a really important. Is there anything else that you think we should?
I want to drop one more message, if I could.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's to the point we just were making. I want you all to consider the idea that you're not your body. Okay? I want you to consider the possibility that there's something more to you than your physical body, your thoughts, and your feelings. I refer to the body, after 30 years of really journeying in and opening and discovering, I've gained some insights. And one of those insights is that this body is simply a vehicle. Mm-hmm. So I refer to it as a body vehicle. Mm-hmm. So your body vehicle got created, sperm and egg came together, this wonderful thing got created, got architected, but it also came with it a lot of programming. Mm-hmm. So just like your computer, it gets installed with a lot of programming on how to function. So just imagine that the body vehicle you inhabit is very programmed to think a certain way, feel a certain way, and to move a certain way. You're not your programming, okay? So who are you then? Well, when you start to access whatever this power is within us that begins to heal us, that's what I am now identifying with as the real me.
The power of the real, yeah.
Not the vehicle itself, but the power to transform it. Every one of us as human beings has inherited a body and a lot of programming. Mm-hmm. It's not who you are. We inherited it. We could come up with all the reasons why that happened, but maybe we don't need to. Just let it be a mystery. However, who you are is the power to transform it. And so what Alana and I, celebrate is this awareness of who we really are. And we celebrate the teachers in our lives who have brought us techniques, methods to access the truth of who we are and to allow that truth of love and wisdom and light to transform the body vehicle that you inhabit, to transform the programming that is really geared towards suffering. The shame and the guilt and the judgment and the negativity of the mind just dominating our body and even dominating our heart and our spirit, diminishing it. Your heart and spirit are the most powerful, most beautiful and intelligent parts of your being. If ever you're going to feel better, if ever you're going to find joy in your life and fulfillment and purpose and power and confidence and healing, it's going to be through a deeper connection and a flow of those aspects of your nature. We have to let go of this identification with our programming, this mind that's incessantly trying to hijack our reality by telling us this is who you are, this is the truth. And it takes commitment. It takes intention and discipline.
And repetitive. We have to repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat.
Because every day, every moment, this programming wants to take the driver's seat. The good news is that the more you step into your body and step into your heart and step into your spirit and step into your energy and start to let it flow, it begins to gradually take charge. And then eventually, when your heart and spirit get 51% of the stock in your being, then the tide switches.
It does.
And now the mind starts to take the second and third seat and fourth seat and finds its rightful place, because the mind's not bad, but it needs to be in service to your true self, not to be the CEO. And so, we all have this potential.
Everybody has it.
To come back to who we really are and to open to that and let it work wonders through us. Let it transform us. Let it bring us back to our original state of health and vitality and get us back to our original purpose. Mm-hmm. What are you really here for? Mm-hmm. And on one hand, you're here to transform this body vehicle. This thing is, our bodies have inherited from, go back to your ancestors. We're talking thousands of years since human beings were first, there's memory. These ancestors kept passing their programming on to their next generation. We're a byproduct of all those who walked before us and all that programming, and it's a mess. I'm not gonna lie, it's a frickin' mess. And yet, nothing has taken away who we really are.
Right.
Love and wisdom and light is still inside of all of us. It's just the dominant nature of the mind.
Yeah,
and if we can begin to access these other things, other parts of our nature, we'll turn the corner. I believe, and again, I'm still learning and opening, and I'm still like a child,
I always hear this is just the beginning.
It's just the beginning.
It's really the beginning.
But I think first and foremost, we're here to transform all this wrong programming mm-hmm. and get back to the truth of who we are. And the body's a great way, a good inroad. And then from your body, your feelings, and then from your feelings to your heart, from your heart to your spirit, it's just a stepping stone into going inward towards that truth. And if we do that, anything else we do in the world's wonderful. But from that place of being connected to our true self and bringing that love and light into the world, first to ourselves.
Right, we gotta start with ourselves.
Gotta start with yourself.
Can't blame it on the outside world. No.
There's nothing selfish about that. Your heart and spirit are waiting patiently, and for eternity will wait until that magic moment when you step out of your head and get back in touch with your body and your heart and your spirit. And when that happens, and there are people like Alana and myself and several other human beings on the planet that are acting as bridges to that part of your nature.
Helping facilitate the process, because that's what humanity is actually going through right now. It's not going through, I don't like Biden, I don't like Trump, that's not actually what we're going through. Yeah. Everything is just a symptom of what we are going through inside. So the way to fix the world, and this is actually how we ended the heart-centered living one, was fix yourself first. Because then you see what you bring to the world, because everybody is bringing something to the world. And I'm first going to say that I've written several books, but I wrote a book called Wishing on Your Own Star that has a lot of this if you want to do it yourself. And I do point out that once you make a decision, I think that's where you were getting is I noticed that the mind is a switching station. It's either going to say, I am this identity, I am this body, I am my programming, or it's going to say I'm a spirit, not a body, and that's the path I choose. because that's connected to the wisdom of that spirit and what I say, the unified field or God. It has the wisdom to unravel your programming. So actually, once you make a decision, and A Course in Miracles calls it the curriculum, your soul knows the curriculum that you need to go through in order to undo the programming and become your authentic self. So you can either use a facilitator or not. So anyway, yeah, my book and my website is alanak.com. And I'll let you say your website and your book one more time so that people know how, if they need more information.
Yeah, the website's freedomfrombodymemory.com, and the book is titled Freedom from Body Memory.
Yeah, that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, freedom from body memory. Whee! I'm a free spirit. Wonderful. Okay, so that concludes our show today. I think it was absolutely fabulous.
Thank
I
you.
should call my show unscripted because that's what we do. Yeah, we just see where we're going to go with it, and it works out really good. So remember, don't try to change Maui. Let Maui change you. Maui is a healing place, and let it guide you and let it teach you. And if you're a visitor here, do the same thing. See what the island has to show you, and how it's trying to help you heal and help you enjoy this beautiful, amazing place that we have here in the middle of the ocean, Maui, Hawaii.
Ah.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan, so much. That was awesome.
Mahalo.
Okay, ahui ho.